Okay, we're live now. I am anyway. So I'm recording today's lesson, and I'll be putting it online. And you could just click the in Google Classroom the link to my YouTube account, and it'll bring you to the video of my screen and my talking. So if you miss any of the class, then we could do it that way. I used to upload the lessons, but I changed them so much over the years and like semester to semester that it was just crazy. So I think this way might be better. Besides which, you get a visual thing with YouTube, and you could also fast forward through it, so it could go probably faster. All right. So what I'd like you to do, my favorite kind of website is Unsplash. Unsplash.com. Now you guys probably have this picture. I'm going to reuse a picture that we have. So remember, what's really nice about the downloads is that it organizes your pictures in the days. So if we go back yesterday and the day before and so on, it'll give you all the pictures. Now I have a lot more because I was kind of prepping for today. So anyway, the first picture that I'd like you to get in Unsplash. So we already did this one. What's the name of the person's face? Oh my goodness. Sorry, I should have written it down. Okay, just type in woman face. And it's the picture. I know that we did this yesterday's review and so on, but do the Christopher Campbell woman face. It actually looks like a girl who's like 17 years old. Do the downward arrow. We might as well download it. What it does, I like Unsplash because it puts the name of the artist on your file name, which is good. It saves you time. And if you look at the downloads, it'll be there. It'll organize it into today, which is really nice. So I have that woman face there. And let's do landscape. And I'm just going to download the Bailey Zindel picture there of I think it's Yosemite Valley. Right now, Yosemite Valley, there's fires burning there, so the skies are really orange, and it's the most polluted place on the earth on the west coast right now because of all the fires. So I'm going to download that one. So what's really cool is that it automatically downloads it into your downloads folder, and you see it right there. So some of this is going to be boring for some of you. Some of it is going to be a little new. I like to throw in a couple of new things once in a while. So take this Christopher Campbell one of the girl into Photoshop. So what I'm doing here, what I'm doing is actually pretty easy. I go into the downloads folder and just drag it because I put Photoshop onto the taskbar, and I just drop it onto the taskbar, and then I put it in, I drag it onto Photoshop. So it's pretty cool. It's a fast way of doing it. So we got the girl. Now I realize that working with you guys, I always find faster ways of doing things. And we're going to use the quick selection tool and just quickly select her. We're not going to do the hair thing. Now, there's also a little bump there on the far right, which you should watch out for. The little bump on the far right on her head, which the quick selection tool doesn't select. Hit the Q key on your keyboard, and it shows you what the quick mask is. It tells you if you've missed anywhere, so it's just a quick way of checking your selection. Sometimes you don't select the eyes or whatever, but just select that thing there. Now, don't do Ctrl-J, okay? If you did Ctrl-J, just do Ctrl-Z, undo it. So you just want the background, and you want the selection on it. Okay. Because the other day I made a mistake of doing Ctrl-J. That's just another way of doing it, but I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. So just keep it as one layer. What I want you to do is go into Select and Mask. Okay, Select and Mask. Let me just make sure I'm tape. Select and Mask will bring you into the mode where you could actually carefully cut around the hair, but we won't do that actually this time. But we're going to use the Select and Mask for other properties, which are pretty cool. So I want you to scroll down on the right side on Select and Mask. And I would like you to, this is the neat thing that I want you to get to start thinking. I want you to feather it by about 10 pixels. So it's really the quickest, fastest, and neatest way to make your selection kind of soft along the edges. So I'm feathering it. That's global refinements. If you don't have it twirled down, just twirl it down. I just lost it. Okay, global refinements and feather around 10 pixels. And keep scrolling downwards. And output settings, I'm always clicking decontaminate colors, because there could be a color that doesn't match for the background. And if you decontaminate it, then it'll get rid of that color mask. For instance, if you look at the back of this classroom, there's a green screen. If you photograph someone against the green screen, then you're going to have a little green edge around the person's figure because the light is reflecting off the green screen. If you decontaminate the colors, then it'll take that little green off of the person. So it'll be pretty cool. So just go OK now. And what it has done is created another layer, which is really neat because we don't have to do Ctrl-J anymore. And this you won't learn until grade 12, although I'm kind of wondering, maybe I should teach you guys masks at some point because it's so valuable. But what it's done is that it's created a nice softness around her. And it's also decontaminated the colors around her hair, although it still looks a little bluish. So what I want you guys to do is to insert that other picture in the background of it. Yes? Oh, for layers, just hit F7. Okay. Okay. Yep.
It only selects the entire image when I try to stick select it.
Really?
Yeah. Like, try to select the vinegar and then.
I don't know. For some reason, that's red. So can deselect. Can you click on that? Yeah, could you? Okay, so bring that that nice landscape that I showed you. Actually, you need to bring that landscape on, the one that I showed you, the Bailey Zinda one. And oh, it fits perfectly on it. It has an X through it because it's a smart object. Now I'll tell you quickly what a smart object is about. A smart object is an undestructive way of putting a picture on there. So if you ever reduce the picture that you throw onto it and then enlarge it again, it won't resample it and pixelate it. It'll always be the same quality. That's what a smart object is. So that's all I'm going to say for now. Hit the check mark or hit enter key. And then put the smart object so that the girl is in front of the landscape. Now it works nicely because what you could do with her hair is that you could use the burn tool. Remember, the burn tool is where the lollipop symbol is, and you click on it and hold it, and then you could have the dodge tool, the burn tool, and the sponge tool. Well, let's use the burn tool and just Ctrl+++, zoom in. Make sure you're on the top layer on the girl thing, and then just just burn in where her hair is. It's just a quick way instead of having to do all that other stuff. Okay? And notice that when you're really close, it actually, you can see the softness around the edges of her, which is cool. There's a little bit of wave that I really don't like at the left of her hair, so I'm just going to use the eraser brush, soft eraser brush, and erase away a bit of that edge. Okay? So you see, you don't have to always go in the select and sorry, what do you call that again? You don't always have to go into the select and mask and make selections around her hair. Sometimes if it's simple like this, then you could just do that. And this is really nice because it softens the edges. And there's a famous artist called Leonardo da Vinci. With his Mona Lisa, he invented something called sfumato. And in his painting, if you look carefully at Mona Lisa, she's kind of soft around the edges. So it's another way of making a selection that makes it look more realistic. And it's actually pretty good because if you make something too sharp, then it looks like it's cut out as a cardboard fake type thing. So if it kind of softens around the edges, then your selection may look a little better. Now you guys may not understand the meaning of the mask that's next to it. Don't worry about it. If you really want to know, then I could teach you at some point. But learning about masks throws you into a completely different world of Photoshop. But right now, we're just using it to make a nice soft selection. Okay. So don't worry about burning it too much. What's really wrong about this photo is that you have a blue cast in the background and you have the girl who's lit by warm light. So there's a discrepancy in it, so it still looks fake. So we're going to try to match the girl to look like the landscape, and I'll show you how to do that. This is actually something, I don't know why I'm teaching you guys this, but you might as well start making things look realistic. I actually teach this in grade 12, but it's a pretty easy technique. Okay. So hold the I key on your keyboard. It'll give you the eyedropper. And click on the blue near the top of one of the hills, the cliffs. And what you're going to notice is in the color picker at the bottom left of the toolbar, you're going to see the foreground color has become that blue that you picked. The I key is just a quick shortcut to jump you into the eyedropper tool. Okay, so what we're going to do is pretty interesting. We're not going to paint on the girl. Okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to create I wonder if we could paint on the girl. We could paint on the girl, but I want you to have a little more control over it. So create a new layer on top of the one you have. So remember the new layer is next to the garbage can on the layer palette. It's this little square with this plus symbol in it. And it'll create a new layer with this checker box. Whatever. Forget. Yeah, the checker box type of thing. So we got the color. I want you to choose the brush tool, which you could just jump to by just hitting the B key. Make sure that you have a soft brush. So if the hardness is to 100%, just drag it to the left. It'll soften it. It doesn't matter what size brush you use. I just want you to paint over the girl really rough like this. Okay? Trust me, I hope it'll work. Just paint over the girl like that. So do a little more careful job than I did. Just don't overlap too much. So I'm just painting over her like this. And this is cool because this is going to, I know it looks really rough now, but I'm going to tell you another step that you do that's going to cause her to have a blue cast on her, okay? So paint her blue like that. Yes, Alex? You have to make her blue. It's not painting blue? You're using you're using the color replacement. So click and hold that and go to the brush tool. And that's right. Okay? I'll just finish painting it up. You can always erase the other. Okay, so make her really, really blue. Okay. Well, this is a magical thing because I know I'm going to teach you folks at some point what this is about. If you look at the layers palette, you see the thing that says kind. I'm never going to teach you that. Opacity, you could lower it. We're not going to touch the opacity. The little thing that says normal, it's called the blending mode. So if you click that little thing, it opens it up. It's got dissolve, darken, multiply, color burn, linear burn, darker color, lighten, screen, blah, blah, blah. Well, in this case, we're going to do multiply. So I want you to click on multiply and then bring the opacity down a bit. So what that's going to do is that it's going to create the same cast as the background. So what I did is that I used multiply blending mode and I brought the opacity down. So if you bring the opacity all the way to 0, you'll go back to the way it was, which will make her too warm. And if we bring the opacity to the right, like 25% or 33%, then she's going to have the right cast for the background image. So I know it doesn't make that much difference to you, but it makes it look like she's really standing there. You're giving her a bluish cast. So that's a little trick. Now, if you go on the internet and you try to find the same idea, it's really, really a long process. And I wonder if this, the expression there's more than one way to skin a cat, which is terrible. Well, there's more than one way to do the same effect in Photoshop. And usually there's an easy way, and then there's the internet way when someone does something with 25 steps. Anyway, so this is the easy way of creating a proper podcast. Okay? Yeah, so it looks like, and if there's any overflow, don't worry, I won't say this. I know there's color blending mode that are really cool. Layer blending mode. I'll show you later how you use layer blending mode. So you guys good? Okay. So what you're going to do now, we're going to keep working on this, because remember you could control the amount of color cast you have on it by just moving the opacity bar. Let me just opacity. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the filter menu. Make sure you click on the girl's face, which is the second layer. Let me just enlarge this so you guys could see it better. Okay, so click on the girl's face, not on the mask that's to the right of it. The mask is linked to it. Click on the girl's face. We did this yesterday. We went to liquify, and with liquify, we're able to, if you use the the top tool, then you could warp her face. If you increase the brush size, then you could warp it different ways. I once did this when I took a photo and this girl in the photo looked sad, so I liquefied her smile. I forced a smile on her. So anyway, you could try the different tools there. You can enlarge the eyes. You can make the eyes smaller. Okay. I want you guys to also try the smudge tool, which is the little finger thing. Smudge tool is a little bit like the liquify tool, but it takes a lot longer. And so you have to really watch out when you use the smudge tool. And then I'm going to show you one new thing that I didn't teach you before. So just take your time here. I'm just going to put a pause on this. Okay, the last thing we're going to review here is click on the girl's face. Obviously you have that. Do Ctrl-T, which is transform. If you move the corner, then you can make her bigger and smaller. Now, one thing I didn't tell you, you're actually going to move her out of the blue that we created. But what you can do, you see the blue. If you want to affect the blue before you do a transformation, click on the blue cast, okay, and then do Ctrl-E. It's the underlying layer has a layer mask. If this preserved in a mask merge, well, apply the mask before merging. Apply. Okay, so just go apply. And what it does is that it compresses the top layer to the bottom layer. So let me just review that again. So click on the blue that you did. Do Control-E. Control-E is the same thing as merge down. If you click on the menu item on the layer palette, you go right near the bottom and you have it merge down. But Control-E is a lot better, and you apply it. Now you have the color cast applied to the woman's face. Do Control-T is to resize. So you could either just click the corner up and down, or this is the really neat thing that I didn't show you guys yesterday. You hold the Shift key, and the Shift key will actually change the scale. Okay, so you make her really thin, or really big. Okay, so it really applies, it changes, it makes it more elastic if you hold the Shift key. Okay. So if you don't hold the Shift key, then it's going to just naturally enlarge and decrease. It used to be the Photoshop a couple of years ago, you used to have to hold the Shift key. It was the opposite. But now if you hold the Shift key, then you could actually change the size and the width of the selection. Okay. All right, so we're not going to submit this. This is just a kind of review with a little extra thrown in. Okay. We're going to learn a new thing. So I want you to close this. If you want to save it, then you could save it. Remember, you could do Windows Shift S if you just want to take a snapshot of it, but that's just for your own record if you want to. It's good always to take a record of stuff with a snapshot, because if you look at the snapshot, you look at the layers and suddenly, oh, I remember what I did. It's a good way of reminding you of what you did. There's another thing too. I'll have to teach you that another time. There's another way too of writing notes to yourself directly onto the Photoshop document, but it's notes. It's called notes, but I haven't used it in a long time. View, window. Okay, if you go to the window menu, I don't know if you still have it open. If you go to the window menu and you click notes, then you could write little notes on there. Window menu, notes. Use the note tool to add a note. I'm not sure how to do it. Sorry, guys. Yeah, we'll just get rid of notes right now. Close tab. All right, so just close this file. Don't save it. We're going to do a little fun manipulation here, and then I'll get you guys. By the way, the breaks are modified, so I'll have to let you know when the breaks are. Every day is different. So we're going to have our break starting at almost 9 o'clock. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is to go onto Unsplash. Unsplash and type in, we're going to do the same thing together. And you're going to type in person sitting on floor. Person sitting on floor. So the very first one is by John Ho. So I'd like you to download this one. So just click the down arrow, and it's going to automatically put it into your downloads folder. Now what's really cool about this is that if you click at the bottom file and you drag it into Photoshop, you could actually bring it directly into Photoshop. So let me just do that again for you. So let's say you just downloaded this one here, the Junho, with a little arrow. It's going to bring it down to the bottom left-hand corner of your browser. If you grab that and you drag it onto the taskbar and up onto Photoshop, then you bring it into Photoshop. It's just a shortcut from having to go into your downloads folder and drag it into Photoshop. Okay. So I'd like you to go back into Unsplash and type in confused what?
Back up to the top, there's a really good one. One on the left, far left.
Far left?
Use that one.
Oh, no. The specific reason that I need it is, okay, is for something specific to this project. So type in confused woman. It's the one that we learned, that we used already. Oh, you know what? It's not an Unsplash. Okay, can you guys go into, we already have it downloaded, but I'd like you to go into Pixabay and type in confused woman. Okay, there you have the woman with her hands out like that. I don't know why someone would volunteer to have these photos, but okay, sorry, go into Pixabay. Go into confused, type in confused woman, and in this thing we have to click on it and do the free download and download. Remember Robin Higgins? We're going to have to go into the downloads folder here and type in, change the title on the file, and just type in Robin Higgins Pixabay, where the other one was Junho Unsplash. Sorry about that. I thought it was. So you have two files. So what I'd like you to do, okay, watch carefully what I'm doing here. I'm bringing it down to Photoshop, but I'm not dragging it onto the canvas. I'm actually dragging it, I'm putting this photo off of the canvas so that it opens in a separate tab. So if you didn't do that, then you're going to have a picture on top of it as an X, and it's going to make it more difficult. So just undo it by Ctrl-Z, and I'll show you how to do it again. So we go into our downloads folder. You drag it anywhere on Photoshop except on the canvas area. And then it's going to open up in a different tab. So you should have a tab for the Jun Ho one and a tab for the confused woman. So what we're going to do now, first of all, is we're going to use the quick selection tool and select the woman. We did this on day 1, I believe. And remember, you could reduce the size of the brush if you need to. I'm going to use the negative selection brush to remove stuff I don't want. Use the Q key to show where you've made bad selections. And then just go back. Remember the option bar at the very top, you have the positive quick selection brush and the negative quick selection brush. If you want to do more detailed, you do go Ctrl+++. So Ctrl+ will zoom it in. Left-hand bracket will make your brush smaller. Right-hand bracket will make the brush bigger. Spacebar will move you through the image if you have it zoomed in. And remember, the Q key will show you your the mask. And you could go over it a little better. Okay. Remember, we're gonna, not remember, but we're going to submit this one. So, so I'm just gonna wait a bit. You don't have to go into select and mask. You could just go to Ctrl-J because we don't really have to refine this picture. So Ctrl-J is going to put her onto another layer. Then I'm just going to jump ahead, then I'll walk around and make sure everyone's okay. And then I'm going to put that picture in the background that we used in the previous one. So the Barry Zindel. Bailey Zindel. So just like that. Okay, I'll just come around. So could you guys look here now? So you've all done this. It's good. It's a pretty easy thing we have to do here. Alex mentioned that there's 1 pixel difference here, but it doesn't matter. To the right, that's okay. Okay. So I want you to go to the other tab where you have these 2 guys acting cool. Now, I wasn't too crazy about this picture because if you go Ctrl+++, you notice that it's really grainy. But we won't worry about the graininess because we're going to make them small and then we're going to fit them in our hands. The reason it's grainy is because it's not that it's a low resolution, it's that it was taken in very low light. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is use the quick selection tool and select the guy on the left. Don't worry, we're going to get our break soon. But the guy on the left, you have to be kind of careful because he's got like running shoes in the background. and just hit the Q key and you'll see that some things don't work and some things do. Be careful because once you made the selection, it sometimes automatically goes to the negative key, the negative selection. Okay. So just be careful about the shoe. So remember, hit the Q key to figure out what you haven't selected. If you want more detail, you could zoom in or make the brush smaller. Okay, remember we're just selecting the guy on the left. Now just to go ahead a bit, I've selected the guy. I do Ctrl-C to copy him. And then I go on to the other picture, the girl with the hands up, and I do Ctrl-V. So Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, Ctrl-C copy. Ctrl-V doesn't make sense because it represents paste. So why did they choose V? It's because P, they want you to use your left hand, one hand only to do all the keyboard shortcuts, and they just wanted it close to your left hand. So imagine if you had to hit Control and extend your finger all the way to P, it'd be difficult. So Control-V to paste, Control-T, resize him so he's a tiny little guy that fits in the palm of her hand. Okay, and I'll come around and make sure you guys are doing fine. Okay, could everyone look here? So what I'd like you to do is this effect here, and make sure you write the credits underneath. So I have Confused Woman by Robin Higgins, Pixabay, Mini Guys by Junho of Unsplash, and Background by Bailey Zindel of Unsplash, all 2020, copyright 2020. The copyright symbol is Alt0169. Remember, you have to submit this one, and you have to put the little layers palette next to it. Let me just make the panel options a little smaller. And then you have to take a snapshot of it and submit the snapshot, which is usually in PNG format. It's Window Shift S, and then save it and submit it to Google Classroom. Okay, so I'm going to leave this up, and I'll give you guys about 10 minutes, and we'll start something new. I'll tell you what your next thing is at 9:30. Okay, so you got till 9:30 to work on this. Just look at what I have up here if you have any confusion, or just raise your hand and I'll come over and help you. So the next project after you submitted the snapshot of this one, you have two choices. You could either create your own mini-me with pictures that you got off Unsplash or Pixabay. You have to give the credits for it. Or you could use the cameras and take picture, work in teams of two, and a person could take a picture of you, and you could be a mini-me person in someone's hand, or being thrown in someone's mouth, or juggled, or whatever. So you only have to do one more project. You could use the cameras, or just the pictures off the internet with credits, or a combination of both, okay? So that's your assignment, is to just do another one of your own with the cameras or with pictures you get off the web with, and all of them, everything has to have credits on it. So we opened Alex's picture here, and then we did Ctrl-L to bring up the levels. We run on the layer that the nurse or doctor is in, And Control-L, the levels, allows you to control the exposure. So you can move either the gray slider or the white slider. If you unclick the preview, it shows you what the picture looked like before. And if you click the little preview box to give you the check mark, it shows you what you've changed the exposure to. Okay, so before and after. So that's something that gives you a lot of latitude to be able to make your pictures that you're importing the same exposure as the other ones, because you never know what you're going to import if it's going to be properly exposed. So those photographs that you get off the internet are not always perfect. So this is the way to correct it. Let me just cancel it again. So I click on the layer, Control-L. I move the gray slider to the left and then the white slider to the left. And then I can move the gray slider to the right and so on. And to brighten up and to see the difference, you unclick the preview bar button. And then when you're okay with the change, you go okay. And then you get the change. The other thing you can do, what you should do is zoom back and make sure that it looks right. Because usually when people look at your picture, it's probably in a magazine, they look at it from far away. What a lot of artists suffer from is that they look too close to the image, and they should be looking at it from far. I think this works really well with the exposure correction. But the other thing you could do is that you can make it stand out by putting either a glow or a shadow. So I'm going to zoom in on him a bit. Hold the space bar and move it over. Now the layer that the guy is on, if you double click, not on the thumbnail but on the gray part of it, it's going to bring up something called layer style. We're going to talk about this more frequently, but I just want to give you guys a lot of hints here. So if you click on the gray part of the layer, does everyone have the layer style? Okay. Now one cool thing about the layer style is that I want you to click on the word drop shadow at the bottom. Don't just click on the check mark, but click on the word drop shadow. And then you could drag, what is it? You could drag the opacity of the drop shadow to 100%, let's say. You could change the angle of the drop shadow. And then you could change the spread, the size, and the distance of the drop shadow to create a drop shadow. And then you bring the opacity down. What it does is that it gives you kind of the idea of a shadow. So again, you could bring the opacity up on the drop shadow. You could change the angle of it if you want the guy to cast a shadow. You could change the distance, the spread, and the size of it. The size kind of softens it up. Okay. So that's a drop shadow effect. It kind of mimics the idea of creating a shadow on something. The other thing you could do, let me just unclick the drop shadow. I won't put the check box there. What it does is that when you go into drop shadow, it immediately puts a drop shadow. Just go OK. Just check mark the drop shadow. It immediately puts a little eyeball next to effects, and underneath the effects has drop shadow. You can remove the drop shadow by just unclicking the eyeball. Okay? So that's pretty cool. So if you don't like an effect, you can remove it just underneath it, so it's not permanent. Now I'm going to unclick the eyeball and I'm going to go back. I'm going to double click on the gray part. I'm going to go into the layer style thing, and I'm going to go to outer glow. So click on the word outer glow, not just the checkbox. What's really cool about this is that you could, let me just make sure I'm recording this. Yeah. You could click on the white box and change it to any color you want and move this anywhere you want. So let's just say I'm going to do a violet glow, and I'm going to move in the main box the glow. So you could kind of see what it looks like in the box. So when you have a glow, you could increase the spread, you could increase the size, and you see if if you have a subject against a really dark background, sometimes it's good to create a glow. Not necessarily violet, but let's say kind of yellowish. You could create a yellow glow. I'm not sure that it's completely appropriate in this one, but there's some cases where you want to have a glow. Another case, you want to also have a stroke, and that puts a line around the subject, but that wouldn't work in this case. Okay, so I'm going to undo the stroke. I'm going to leave the glow. I'm going to go OK. And then you see what it does is that it, under the word effects, under the layer of the doctor or nurse, you have effects, the eyeball next to it. You can remove all the effects, or you can remove just the outer glow and bring back the drop shadow, or you could have the drop shadow and the outer glow, which doesn't make sense, but I'm just going to put the drop shadow back there. So what you have is probably something that works better than the original, because at least you could see it now. And I put a drop shadow on it to kind of make it stand out a bit. Now, I just want to check something here. Is there a... I'm just trying to find... come on. Let's just hit... 1 second. Okay, hit F12. F12 is a quick key that reverts you right back to the beginning. And F12 will show you what the image looks like originally. And you do Ctrl-Z, it'll bring you back to what you had. Okay, so F12 is called the revert key. It's okay, you're not going to lose anything, because if you want to undo, F12 just brings you back to the first step when you open the file. You're just taking forever again. It's a big file, it's about 166 megabytes. And that's why I don't have you guys upload the Photoshop file, because it would take me 5 minutes for each person to open their file. That's why you just upload a snapshot. Okay, Ctrl-Z will bring you back. All right. So that's how we do this one here. So it improves the picture. So Alex, I expect you to submit the improved version. We'll close it. I'm just gonna save it as, okay. So close this one, and then what I would like you to do is to open the other one in the read-only folder in Media Arts 10. Trying to save this picture, but it's not working. Okay. I can't find it. Okay. So open the other one called with Juliana Romao. And Ella, this is yours, right? Okay. This is Ella's. And I want to show you a really cool effect. I showed this to Liam or Tyson, probably Tyson. What I'm going to do is create a little blur. So you're going to get a little blur effect so it looks like the person's moving. So it isn't like frozen in the air. So click on the very top person. And the very top person would be this woman with their arm, with their legs out like that. See, the reason I could tell which one it is that I just removed the visibility. And I could see which person it is right away. Actually, what I'm going to do, click on the second one, because I want to do this guy to be more interesting. So click on the second one with the guy kind of looks like he's parachuting down. And click on the eyeball to remove him there and put him back. Okay, so that's the second guy. So click on the thumbnail of the second layer, which is layer 4. And then go to Ctrl-J, which is going to duplicate that layer. Okay. Is everyone fine? Duplicate the layer. Okay, now this is where the magic happens. You go to the filter menu. You go to the blur, filter menu blur, and you go to motion blur. So let me just hold it there for you guys. Filter menu, blur, motion blur. Filter menu, blur, motion blur. And zoom out so you could actually see the person. Okay, we zoomed out. You could zoom out on the motion blur window. The angle, again, like the drop shadow, you could move it up and down or at an angle closer to where her arm hand is, and increase the distance of the pixels to, I don't know, what will work here. I'm increasing it to about 800 pixels. Okay, this is, I know it doesn't look good, but hang on a second. So I'm increasing it to about 800 pixels, and I'm going OK. Notice I've changed the angle so it comes from the hand. Now what's really cool is that if you use the move tool, you can move the blur downwards. Okay, so you got the blur going below the person and on top of it. If that's still too intense, you could reduce the opacity of the effect and it'll come a little better. Okay, so instead of the full effect, you could reduce the opacity effect, or you could even take the soft eraser brush and erase a little bit on the bottom of it. So let's just do it for the top layer. We'll do it for the top layer as well. Do Ctrl-J for the top layer, girl. And then let's do the same thing. Go to filter menu and go to, what did I say, blur, and go to motion blur. Filter, blur, motion blur. Zoom back and you'll be able to see her. Move the hand inside. Okay, there we go. And actually the same level of blur is good, except we have to change the angle of where it's coming from. Okay, so you could change the angle. Oops, I'm not. Do OK, and then use the move tool to move the blur downwards and to reduce the opacity a bit. See, you get that kind of effect. The other thing you could do, I don't want to say anything more, but I don't know, should I? You could kind of curve the blur either with the smudge tool or the liquify tool. Let me just try the liquify tool. And I'm going to use the forward warp tool. I'm going to increase the size. There, I'm going to angle the blur. Yeah. Make the blur a little curvier. Okay, anyway, that's just a little trick. Well, it didn't work too well, but you see what I was trying to get at. I made the blur a little curvy. Anyway, those are the two tricks. The Ctrl-L to change the exposure. Double clicking on the layer will bring you into the layer style. And then this here, if you duplicate the layer with Ctrl-J and you go to filter blur, you could actually put motion blur onto your object. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys till noon to. Is that too much time, or what? How much time do you guys want? Can I check in with you guys at 1:45 and see how you're doing? Okay, so I'll give you guys till 1:45, and then we're going to start something new. Well, it depends. If you want to enhance your work that you're submitting, you can. You don't work on these, but work on your own project. If you find that your project is good the way it is, like someone just standing, then that's good too. But you might want to experiment a little bit with the Ctrl-L to change the exposure. And if you have an object being kicked or moved or whatever, then you might want to put a blur. Any questions? No? Okay. Quarter two, I'll check in with you guys and then we'll see how you're doing. Okay, I'm recording now. So open Photoshop and choose New and then go to Custom 7x5. But before you hit Create, you see where it says Background Contents? It says white, black, background color. I want you to choose black because we're going to have black as background color. By the way, I just want to point out just below you, there's advanced options. There's sRGB, and there's a whole bunch of different choices underneath sRGB. But oh man, but you always choose sRGB. sRGB is like 30 years old, but everyone uses it because it has a smaller color range, which means that it's contrastier and it looks a lot better. So let me just do this again. So File, New. Color profile, don't color manage. Whatever. Okay. Anyway, choose black as a background color. So again, custom 7x5 at 300 pixels per inch. Yes? Okay. So wait. Oh, okay. Okay, you could choose, default Photoshop size 7x5, 300. Make sure, I just made it white. Okay, File, New. Okay, default Photoshop size, black background, create. Okay, there we have a black background. So I'm going to show you the different ways of working with text. So the first one, just click on the text tool and go right near the top. And don't drag, just click the cursor there, okay? And choose a font size of about 16 points. You see up in the option bar, 16 points. And choose the color white. It's going to give you lorem ipsum. It's really annoying, but I think Photoshop automatically puts that in there so that you can see what size font you have. But as soon as you start typing, it'll take over the lorem ipsum. So just type anything, blah, blah, blah. Have your fingers go all over the place. So if you put in a, if you just put in a cursor, it'll just keep typing and it'll go like way past it. Okay, so I want you to keep that. So this actually going to submit, so please do it carefully. So just type anything at the top, just go with your fingers all through it. And that's one method of putting in text. So we have white text and we have 16 point. The other method is to type into a box. So watch carefully how I put in the box here. So I'm putting in a box about this size, okay? And I'm dragging it down a bit. So again, I'm going to type in like this. Do that. Now when you put in a box, it automatically starts back at the beginning on the left. And okay. And I'm so old that I took a typing class in high school, and we used these old computers that had the little arms that went chicka 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 chicka, and you had to go back. You had to hit this little arm that brought everything back at the beginning. But here we do it automatically. Now I want you to look at the layers. Look at the what is it? Look at the layer where you just put in those letters, and it kind of writes it out there. But I want you to also double click on the T so that it's selected. Your lettering is selected. So what you can do is, if you go up here on the options bar, there's a little box next to the check mark type thing that says toggle character and paragraph panels. So just click on that, and I want you to bring up the character panel. It gets pretty complicated, but I tell you, these are actually all the different things that you need to know if you ever go into graphic design. But there's one important one that I need to point out. It's called set the lettings. So just move your mouse on top of the A. There's an arrow going both ways and a larger A there. Okay. Set the leading right now is in auto mode. So if you click on set the leading and you move it right or left, you see how the distance between your lines change, and you could crush them closer. You could crush them further away. Okay. So you have that option there. If you go below, you have set the tracking, and if you click it, then you can widen the space between the letters, or you could crush the letters together. Okay, so to bring up the character palette up in the option bar, just to repeat again because some people are confused, there's a little symbol that looks like a tab, a page tab, an envelope. You click that and it opens the paragraph and character. Okay, and what we're doing is we're just changing the leading between the letters. There's something else I'll teach in grade 12. It's called, you see where it says metrics? That's set the kerning. But anyway, we won't worry about that yet. Okay. So that's one way of changing the size. You could also go and change the size. You can move it from 16 point to 48 point. And you see when you go to 48 point, the letters are crushed together. That's because it's not automatic. And if you double click on the set the leading, or click on the set the leading, then you could actually space out the letters. And of course, once you have it selected, remember you double click on the little icon T in the layers palette. Once you have it selected, you could change the font style. You could change the size. I'm going to bring it back to 16. And then, of course, you could reset the leading. I'm just going to come around and take a look. So there's this Photoshop is so advanced, so sophisticated. It's the best photography program, bar none, in the world. It can do everything. I probably only know like about 25% of it, or maybe even less. Yeah. What? Oh, I hit F7. Anyway, you see how you can change everything. You can actually scroll through all the letter styles, and you can look at all the letter styles in front of you. Good. So that's the second way of putting letters in, is creating a box. And if you click the character and paragraph symbol there, then you could change the position of it. So it's toggle. What's it called? I'm putting my mouse on. It's not. You see, usually if you put your mouse on stuff, it'll say what it is. Toggle the character and paragraph panels. Okay. So I'm going to toggle off the character and paragraph panels. So that's the second method of being able to write text. So rather than tell you guys just write the credits underneath, at least know a little bit more about how you change the size, how you change the distance between the lines, and so on. But I know it's a lot to remember, but just remember that each tool on the toolbar has its own options palette. And if you click on it, then you'll have the option of that particular tool. Usually you set it to to align left rather than align center. There's an area there where you have align left. Okay, so this is a really cool method here. We're going to write on a curve. So there's a little pen symbol on the left. Does everyone see the pen symbol in the toolbar? So if you click the pen symbol, you have the pen tool, then you have the freeform pen tool. So choose the freeform pen tool and just draw a curve sort of like this. I'm going to draw it upside down like that. The freeform pen tool, I'm going to do a little, actually I'm going to remove that and just do a curve and a swirl like this. Okay. Now what's really cool about the freeform pen tool is that all of those little dots, let me just write, I just got to write it down. All those little dots, if you hold the Control key, it's not working. Okay, so click on one of the dots before you hit the Control key, and then hold the Control key, and then you could kind of move it around, sort of like a rubber band. Anyway, not that great of a discovery, but yeah. Well, once you do one and you hold the Control key, then you can move all of the dots. Okay, it's a little weird, but I'm gonna kind of undo it because I'm not too crazy about it. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Okay. So that's a freeform pen tool. In grade 12, you're going to learn the pen tool, how to make these perfect selections with the pen tool. It's kind of complicated, but this is the easy thing we're going to do. So we're going to write the text along this path. If you don't like it, just go Control Z until it disappears, and you could draw it again. So click on the text tool again, and then move the little cursor to the beginning of your freeform of your the lines that you just did. And then you're going to see the text tool with this little wavy thing on the bottom of it. That means that if you click on it, you could connect it onto the line. So take the text tool, move it to the beginning of the line. You see this little wavy sine curve or whatever. Click on it, and it's going to give you lorem ipsum. That's fine. I'm going to keep the lorem ipsum there. And I'm going to check mark it. So I'm just going to walk around and just see how you guys are doing. So that's the other way of being able to, that's the third way of being able to do text. So I'll just come by and take a look. Everyone okay? Can you just throw this in the bucket? Throw it in the bucket. Take it really Okay. Move the text tool. You see how it turns over the line? Oh, because you have centered it. You want to put the center. Now, if you have this, everything should be aligned left, so if anyone has a problem, just let me know. So, yeah, if you want to move the text around, there's this little black arrow in the toolbar. This little black arrow. Put the black arrow onto your text and you can kind of move it left or right. So if you take the, whoops, I didn't stop the recording. If you take the black arrow, then I think if you click on it, oh yeah, you can move it left, right, up or down. So it's kind of interesting, but it works slowly because these computers here don't have a fast processor. So the black arrow, is yours good?
Yeah, they're new. These are new ones. They're 3 gigahertz processors.
Oh, okay. Mine is pretty lousy. So you could actually take the black arrow to move the text around. You can move the text underneath the line or above the line or whatever. So the other thing I want you to do is change the color of the text. So you double click on the symbol T on the layer, and then up in the option bar you have a little white box, and you could change the white box to whatever color you want. And you could change the color of the text. So I want you to be able to change the color of the text. And of course, you could change the size of the text. You know how to do that. You could change the font style and so on and so forth. It just keeps going and getting better. Okay, I'm just going to walk around and take a look at it. I'm going to show you folks the next way of adding text. So you're going to use the text tool and just put a cursor around, oops, text tool. Put a cursor around here, and I want you to make, I hate it how it puts lorem ipsum. One second. Okay, whatever text you have, just say this is text, and double click on it. I'm going to move it up to about 36 point, and I'm going to give it a different style. Okay. So I put text there, and I'll show you what we're going to do. If you look up in the option bar, there's this little symbol near the far right. It's a T with the curve underneath it. If you choose the T with the curve underneath it, you could warp your text any direction you want. So if you look at style, you could arc it, and you could change the characteristics of the arc underneath by moving the sliders. You can arc lower, arc upper. You could do a whole bunch of different approaches. Okay? Squeeze. So again, if you, I'm just going to arc it, and I'm going to bend it a little more. Now remember, once you do that, you could actually use the move tool and kind of move it around where you want it. This is text. Okay, so what I did is that I just wrote text. I made it a big font size, and I clicked on the option bar, the T symbol with the curve underneath it, and it gives you a whole bunch of different options. So it's another thing you can do, and you can change the color of it. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to show you the next thing that you could do. Oops, I'll just remove this little mask thing. I'd like you to go to your browser and Unsplash, go to Unsplash and type in look over the edge. We're going to put a picture in, and then I'm going to show you another way of putting text in. So I just showed you 1, 2, 3, 4 ways of dealing with text. Make sure you have all the techniques, because I will be marking you on all the techniques. So look over the edge. You're going to see, if you scroll down, you're going to see this this picture of the woman with the blue eyes looking upwards. Okay, now download that one. Now the cool thing about this is that you don't have to go into your downloads. You could just grab the files by Charlie Firth and you could drag it onto your taskbar and up onto Photoshop to load it. So there you have the woman and you have the X going through her. Okay. Now, usually when there's an X through it, I just hit the check mark or hit the enter key. All right. So I'd like you to go to Ctrl-T to select it again. We'll just reduce her size. We're going to flip her so she looks the other way. So to flip so that she's the opposite direction, I want you to right-click on the image and go down at the bottom and say flip horizontal. Okay, and then obviously she's flipped the other way. So flip horizontal so she's actually looking at the text. Okay, let me just do that again. So you place the picture in, I've reduced the size, you right click on it and you choose flip horizontal. I just want to make sure I'm recording this still. Oh, I'm not recording anymore. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's still recording. Okay. It's not always obvious. Okay. So you flipped her horizontal, you check mark it. And then I want you to zoom in again, Control plus, and choose. I'm going to have you guys do this over and over again until we get the selection right. So you're going to use the quick selection tool. By the way, if you have caps lock on, you're not going to see the size of the brush. You're going to see just an X. So if you take the caps lock off, then you'll be able to see the brush size. So I want you to select all of her, including the outside part of the hair. Okay. Okay. What we're going to do is from here, we're going to go right into select and mask. So am I going too fast? Okay, I'm just going to give you guys a few more seconds here. So just select her with the quick selection brush, quick selection tool. And again, if you hit the Q key, then you can see your selections. And then go into select and mask. And then you might want to reduce the brush size and go over the part of her hair that's sort of hanging out, so that we make a selection over that area. All right. Try to do it in one go, because if you go over it again, then it kind of messes it up. Darn, I forgot. I didn't choose her arm. Okay, hang on a second. Okay. So in select and mask, mask out the part of the hair that's sticking out. I think you guys are ahead of me here. The other thing I want you to do is to, we're not going to soften or feather the edge. I'd like you to go to output settings and decontaminate the colors. And then just go OK. Now, the moment you do decontaminate the colors, it actually, you don't have to Ctrl-J anymore. It automatically creates a mask for it. So there we have the woman. Unfortunately, our shirt is black. It almost goes in with that. So let me just see how we could fix that. So what I'd like you to do is to click on the picture of the woman and to actually do the dodge tool. I wonder if this is going to work. No, it's not going to work. Okay, just keep her the way she is. Let me just see something. Okay, anyway, we have her kind of looking up. I'm just going to move her down a bit. Now I'm going to show you the other way of adding text. So the other way of adding text is actually save this file first, just in case we lose it. So save. I'm going to save it on my downloads. I'm going to call it text lesson, text tutorial. Save. Okay, so text tutorial. Hopefully the girl works there. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is go to your what do you call it? Your browser. I'm getting tired here. Go to your browser and type in cool text. And it'll give you a whole bunch of things. You have to go to the cool text graphics generator. Okay. So the cool text graphics generator allows you to put really awesome, weird kind of text designs on there. If you go to fonts, it'll give you all these different fonts. And you go back to logos. Okay. Okay. So let's just go to logos and click on the word skate. And we're actually going to make skate about 100 text size, 100 fonts. 100 font text size. Now you have to click, you have to put in 100 for text size and hit enter key. And what it's going to do is generate your font. Did it generate your font? Did it put it on? Well, me it doesn't work because of my computer, so I have to actually use I have to use Windows Explorer. So skate 100, enter. Do you guys got the skate 100 size? Okay, now go on the word skate and right click on it and go to save image as. You can't copy image because it doesn't work. Save image as. It's going to save it in your downloads folder, but it's also going to put it down at the bottom left-hand corner of your browser. So what you do is that you drag it onto Photoshop and you have the word skate, but it's blurry because you're placing it, but if you hit the check mark, it'll sharpen it. You can resize it by just going back to Ctrl-T, but hit the enter key or the check mark and it'll give you that. The unfortunate thing about this is that you can't apply any of the text tools like the curve and so on. You probably have to go into Liquify, but I don't want you guys to do that. So if you go into, now you got skate on your layers palette and double click on the gray part of the layer, and it's going to bring you into the layer style, which we've done before. And you're going to go to outer glow and put yellow and just play around with your yellow until you get something like this. So if you bring your opacity right up, your blending options would be nice. for your outer glow. And then you have to click on the word outer glow. Click on the word outer glow. If you bring the opacity up and down, you get a different intensity of it. You could get a different spread, and you could get a different size. I'm going to make it really, really big. Okay, I'm going to come around and take a look. Yep. What is it? Your rendered image is not working? Oh, okay. So you're going to have to use this. So type in cool text. If cool text is not working, then you have to go into Microsoft Edge or Explorer. I think Edge is what the new name is. Oh, there's your layers palette. Should I double click on that? No, on the gray part. Click on the word out as well. And then, yeah, then do that. See, okay. Bringing this up, size. Yeah. Opacity right up. Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like you to experiment with a couple of other letters.
5 minutes.
Are you serious?
It's 12:42.
Oh, okay. So, oh, no, actually, we're supposed to, because we had, 12. What? 12:50. Oh, okay. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is to just play around. Okay, I'll show you a really cool thing about it. Okay, take a look at this. Just put a glow around skate. Go back to, I have to use Windows, Microsoft Edge. So go into fonts. What's really cool about fonts is that, let's say if we take the, I don't know, aggressive font, and we choose one of the aggressive fonts, like this one here, then it'll be applied to all of these cool effects that you had with the logos. Okay, so you could choose, go to the fonts up here, choose any one you want. For instance, I'll just take comic, and I'll choose a comic type of font, cartoon, and you could apply it to any of these really cool effects here. I'm going to make it, I'll choose sugar, and this is so weird. I'm going to choose sugar, and I have 120 size, that's fine. I'm going to save image as, and then just drag this little thing into Photoshop. And I got sugar. And you could actually curve it, so you could click outside of the corner, and you could curve the edge. Sorry, you could angle the text. And then I'm going to actually add a glow to this. Outer glow. I'm going to make a different color. There we go. So anyway, submit a snapshot of this to the Google Classroom, so I can see your layers and your project, and that would be it for today. And you guys are going to be dismissed at 12:50. Okay. So the idea is just for you guys to have fun with this, and then tomorrow we'll do a more serious project. Yeah?